You know, most of what we think we know about Billy the Kid, well, it comes from legends, myths, a whole lot of Hollywood movies. But what if I told you the most detailed account we have comes from the one person who knew his end was coming because he was the one holding the gun? Today, we're diving deep into the story of Billy the Kid, but we're doing it through the eyes and the words of Sheriff Pat Garrett, the very man who hunted him down and killed him.
Right out of the gate, in his book from 1882, Garrett makes his mission crystal clear. He's not here to spin another tall tale. He says he wants to correct the, quote, 1,000 false statements and all those sensational, yellow-covered, cheap novels that were already turning the kid into a legend. His goal, or so he claims, was to write a true history. So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to follow the exact path that Garrett laid out for us. We'll start with his version of the truth. Then we'll meet the boy, William Bonney, see how he was forged into an outlaw, get thrown right into the chaos of the Lincoln County War, and watch it all come to a head with a vow of vengeance and a final, fiery siege. Okay, but this brings up a really fascinating question right away, doesn't it? Can the man who actually killed Billy the Kid really tell an unbiased story? I mean, come on. Garrett insists he can, and he really wants to separate the kid from what he calls meaner villains. Let's see how he tries to pull that off. So Garrett's core argument is pretty interesting. He claims the kid's whole life of crime wasn't because of some, evil disposition. Not at all. Instead, he blames untoward, unfortunate circumstances that were acting on an ungovernable spirit. Now, he's not making excuses for him, but he is providing this complex, almost sympathetic backstory that you just weren't going to find in those dime novels. So let's go back to the beginning and see how Garrett builds this case. He takes us all the way back to Billy's childhood, where he says you can already see this deep conflict, this dual nature brewing inside the boy. It's like there were two different kids in one. On one side, Garrett paints this picture of a polite, generous boy, a true champion for the old, the weak, and the helpless, a kid who absolutely adored his mother. But the other side of that coin was a boy with a fearful temper. As Garrett puts it, he had it no bark, but the bite came first. This duality is totally central to Garrett's entire story. And then comes the moment Garrett claims changed absolutely everything. A man on the street insults Billy's mother. The boy confronts him. Later, there's a bar fight involving that same man, and Billy sees his chance. As Garrett tells it, 12-year-old Billy darts in and stabs the man with a pocket knife. He flees into the night, becoming an outcast and a wanderer, and he never, ever saw his mother again. For Garrett, this is the moment that truly outlawed him. Now he's a fugitive, and that boy becomes a man and a full-blown outlaw very, very quickly. His path takes him across the territories of Arizona and deep into Mexico, and this is where he really hones the deadly skills that would eventually make him a legend. Garrett just rattles off this string of ruthless acts that forge the boy into a killer. He details Billy killing 3 Apaches for their ponies, and then Billy coldly remarks it was about the softest thing I ever struck. From there, his reputation just exploded. He becomes a stark, hard, sharp, and Tucson, but that temper, it followed him. He kills a blacksmith at Fort Bowie, has to flee Arizona. Down in Mexico, he kills another gambler over a card game, then goes on a robbery spree in Chihuahua. Yeah, the polite boy was long gone, replaced by a hardened killer and thief. But here's the thing, his criminal life also showcased this incredible daring and loyalty. Garrett tells this amazing story about how the kid's partner, a guy named Segura, was jailed in San Elizario, Texas. So what does the kid do? He rides his gray horse an unbelievable 81 miles in just over 6 hours to get there. He shows up at midnight, tricks the guard into opening the door, disarms and shackles both guards, frees Segura, and the two of them just vanish into the night, even managing to mislead the 30-man posse that comes chasing after them. I mean, that's just a stunning display of nerve. And this quote just brilliantly illustrates the man he had become by 17. Garrett describes him as polite, well-dressed, generous, and almost always smiling or laughing. But behind that laugh, Garrett saw something else entirely. He describes the kid's eyes as blazing, baleful orbs that revealed the killer within, a man who could literally kill you and laugh in the same breath. So this dangerous, laughing killer then rides straight into the middle of a brutal conflict that would come to define his life and his legacy, the Lincoln County War. So, at its heart, this was a war between two really powerful business factions fighting for total control of Lincoln County. You had the established powerhouse of Murphy and Dolan on one side, and on the other, the newcomers, led by an Englishman named John Tunstall. Now here's the twist. The kid initially worked for the Murphy-Dolan side, but then he met John Tunstall and made a fateful decision to switch his allegiance. And that one decision, well, it would change everything. Because for the first time, Billy the Kid wasn't just some hired gun or an outlaw looking for a score. In Tunstall, he found a real friend and an employer, and that newfound loyalty was about to be tested in blood. On this day, a posse that was hunting for Tunstall's horses ambushed and killed him. And for Billy the Kid, this was not just another death in some brutal war. No, this was personal. Garrett's words here are just chilling. He says the kid's rage was fearful. Any trace of that quiet ranch hand he had briefly become was just gone. It was replaced by a man singularly focused on one thing, and one thing only: revenge. He swore he would not rest until every single man involved in Tunstall's murder was dead. And you know what? He was terrifyingly good at getting his revenge. In the weeks that followed, the kid and his allies, who now called themselves the Regulators, hunted down every man they held responsible. They tracked them on the trail, they cornered them at sawmills, they even ambushed them right on the main street of Lincoln. In the end, 5 men connected to the murder would fall to Billy's bloody quest for vengeance. This whole spree of vengeance killings just escalated the Lincoln County War to its absolute boiling point, and it all led to a final, dramatic confrontation right in the heart of the town itself, the siege of Alexander McSween's home. Just take a look at the odds here. It's insane. The kid and about 13 other guys are holed up in McSween's big adobe house. Across the way, the new sheriff's posse, led by Marion Turner, has around 40 men. They were completely surrounded and massively, massively outnumbered. For 3 long days, it was a stalemate, just sporadic gunfire back and forth. But on the morning of the 19th, the posse had had enough. They decided to end the siege once and for all. They started bringing wood to the house, and they set it on fire, determined to burn the outlaws out or kill them as they fled. It was the beginning of the end. And that's where we're going to leave Garrett's telling for now. Look, he set out to write an authentic history, to peel back the layers of myth. But as we've seen, his story is full of its own biases, its own justifications, and a strange, almost grudging respect for the man he would eventually kill. So it forces us to ask, is this the real Billy the Kid, or is it just the version of Billy the Kid that Pat Garrett needed him to be?